Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. It's your boy D Black coming back with another SmackDown review. Alright, I'm just gonna jump right into it because the show tonight was it was dry, it was dead, and and I understand now that why they're losing people watching the show. I mean, the ratings for the show are really starting to get bad. But anyway, let's get into it. Start off with Cody talking to Nick, asking if he heard from Gunther, and Nick always is saying that he hasn't heard anything yet from Gunther. You know, um, then the Usos show up, and Jay's saying when he wins King of the Ring and stuff that he's going to be coming for Cody's title and stuff like that. And and then Cody tells him that he hopes that it's his decision and not Roman Reigns' decision. When he said that he was going to be coming after Cody's belt. And then we get an injury report on Rhea Ripley, and Rhea Ripley, she hurt her knee last week. In Clash in Italy when she was going against Jade Cargill, so she'll be out for a few weeks and stuff like that and everything. And then we get the match with for the women's, Queen of the Ring. We have Charlotte Flair, um, Sol Ruka, Lara Cara, and Jade Cargill. The match was pretty freaking sloppy, is what I'll say. I mean, it was real boring at the first few minutes of the match and everything and stuff. At one point, Charlotte was put out the ring. B-Fab and Michin come out, and then they attack Charlotte, and then Alexa Bliss comes out, to try to help, and then Alexa Bliss, she gets the beat down and stuff, and then all of a sudden Tiffany Stratton, she comes down to try to help, and she gets the beat down, and then Michin and B-Fab are fighting Alexa Bliss and Tiffany Stratton, and they go and they fight all the way back to the back and stuff like that. And then Charlotte ends up getting Lara Valkyria in the figure eight, and Lara Valkyria, she taps out. And so Charlotte advances to face Liv Morgan in the Queen of the Ring to see who's going to be going to the finals, for Queen of the Ring. And then we get a segment back with Kathy, and Tiffany is saying that her and Charlotte, they don't, they're not eye to eye, or they don't really see. She wasn't really out there to try to help her. All they see is the fact that they didn't want Jay to repeat as Queen of the Ring and stuff like that. And then out comes Michin and the B-Fab, and then once they come out, then Chelsea Green, she comes out. They're fighting. I'm not fighting, but they're arguing and everything like that. So they end up setting the match up for um, Tiffany Stratton and Chelsea Green against B-Fab and Michin later on in the show. Then you got the Usos and Jacob, and Jimmy's asking why is Jacob here, and then Jacob, saying that he's here to deliver a message. He's not here to talk to them. He's here to deliver a message from Roman Reigns to Solo Sokoa. So he says he's here basically to speak to Solo. And then we get this segment with Blake Monroe doing a little film thing. Last week, she was talking about Tiffany Stratton, what she's going to do with Tiffany. Now this week, she's talking about Charlotte. But I mean, it's been now about 2 months now, and we still have seen no Blake Monroe. So whenever she shows up, we'll see whatever happens and stuff. But it's such a great delay. But anyway, and then Gunther's saying that telling Nick that he doesn't trust him, to pick anybody that, as far as an official, as far as the ring is, I mean, the match is concerned with him and Cody. So he said that the stipulation is that he's going to pick his own referee and stuff and everything for the match with Cody next week and stuff. And then, you got Finn Balor, and Kathy and stuff like that. And, our truth comes out and he says his little thing and then tells Finn Balor to, like, welcome to SmackDown. So, Finn Balor's from Raw now to SmackDown. Let's see what happens there with all that and stuff going on. Then we get the match with Paige and Brie Bella versus Laney Reed and Fallon Henley. This match too, it was a lot. There's a lot of missed spots and stuff. Everything looks so choreographed, and both in the Queen of the Ring and in this match here. And I mean, it was pretty sloppy and stuff. I mean, they gotta get better. Fatal Attraction is, they're losing, their touch. I mean, the crowd's not even in it anymore as far as they're concerned and stuff. But anyway, um, Brie ends up rolling up um, Fallon Henley and she rolls over Fallon Henley and Paige end up winning the match and she ends up pinning I believe Lanny Reed and stuff. Um, it's just man, I don't know. These matches are getting real bad. The show is actually starting to get boring and stuff like that. I just hope that Triple H somehow finds a way to bring back life to Raw and SmackDown because if not, it's gonna end. It's gonna end. It's not gonna look good either. You got the segment with Sami Zayn talking to Johnny Gargano, laying on some boxes and stuff like that. And then Sammy's talking some crap, and then Candice LeRae says, tells Johnny, yeah, to get up, and go do something about his situation and everything. And then Sammy thanks her, and she wasn't even talking to Sam; she was talking to Johnny Gargano and everything and stuff. And then Sammy just leaves, you know. He's saying that he's going to go and talk to Cody. Then we got the little segment with Danhausen and Los Garza. Los Garza is, basically telling him to change the stuff with the Knicks and everything like that and stuff. And he hands him a bag of, I guess, pesos or whatever and stuff. And then Matt Cardona comes out and he, tells Danhausen the same thing about the Knicks. So it was like some kind of betting thing, whatever, stuff like that and stuff. And then Danhausen said, well, you got to pay with real money and everything. So he ended up getting Danhausen's watch. I mean, not Danhausen's watch, but Danhausen ends up getting Matt Cardona's watch and stuff. And then Kit Wilson comes out. He's pretty pissed off about what what's going on with Miz. And Miz comes out with his hair all, shocked up in the air and stuff. And Kit Wilson is, saying, it's Danhausen's fault for the way Miz is. And then he starts hitting things, and then Hauser is telling Kit Wilson stop hitting things and stuff like that, and then Kit Wilson ends up getting shocked himself. So I guess we'll see what happens, next week and stuff. Him and Miz are gonna be walking around both shocked and stuff. But anyway, and that's what I'm saying. That's the craziness that's happening with WWE. I mean, instead of putting stories together, they're putting bull crap together. But anyway, then Sammy ends up calling out Cody Rhodes and stuff. Sam's telling Cody to at once, stop being, the American Nightmare and be Cody Rhodes, and stuff. And he was going on saying that when he came out to help Cody a few weeks ago when Gunther had him choked out and everything, that he paid the price and stuff for it and stuff, And then, they end up talking, saying that, oh, well, you're my friend and this is your friend and everything and stuff like that. I mean, and then Cody saying there was an accident and stuff like that. I mean, it's just I don't understand what's going on and stuff. I mean, if you're gonna be fighting each other, why are y'all coming out showing all this love and everything? There's just so much animosity going on. And then as the thing goes and stuff like that, then Sammy ends up slapping Cody. Cody tells Sammy, you know, um, Well, actually, Sammy ends up slapping Cody, and then he's saying something. He's sorry, and stuff like that. And then um, Cody's telling Sammy, hey, that he's sorry that he's the champ, and as long as he's champ, that Sammy's never going to be the champ. And then Cody ends up slapping Sammy, and Sammy gets mad, and then Sammy jumps out of the ring. He gets a chair like he's going to go in there and attack Cody with the chair. Then he just dropped the chair, and then that's the end of the segment. He just walks off and stuff. And then we get with Jacob, telling Solo that he's there, to tell him a message from Roman Reigns and stuff. And basically, he's telling Solo that Roman Reigns wants him to come home and stuff. And then Solo's basically saying home and everything. He said that's not a home; it's like a doghouse. And then he told Jacob that he's Roman's lapdog. And then Solo asked Jacob, what happened to him. Saying that he was a killer and that he was that everyone was afraid of him and stuff, and that he was a Samoan werewolf, you know, um, and that he did come close to beating Roman Reigns, you know. And then Solo said that Jacob has done, telling Jacob that he's done nothing, I mean, he's just looking bad, but all he can do is just come there and deliver a message, you know, from the tribal chief and stuff. And then he says Roman's done nothing, but embarrass him and stuff, and humiliated him, and then he made, Jacob kneel down to him, like a dog in front of the whole world, and especially in front of his family, the whole family and stuff, saying that it was an embarrassment, with what was done to Jacob. And it says that they does not, that Roman doesn't know how to treat anybody and stuff, and stuff. And he said the way that he's been treating the way that Roman's been treating Jacob, he said that's not how you show anybody love, you know. And it's just crazy and stuff. And then Jacob, I mean, and Solo basically, tells Jacob like, hey, like, look, he ain't going back. And Jacob basically tells him that, hey, like he's there, you know, to do what Roman says, and if he doesn't, then he would be coming after Solo and stuff. And then Solo basically told him, you know, Solo basically smirks and he says to Jacob, to tell Roman, if he wants him to come back to the home, wants him to come back home, then tell Roman to come, and get him and stuff. So eventually you're going to see something with Jacob and Solo Sokoa. This is something that was going on a long time ago with them when Solo first came with, when Jacob first came with Solo, and, Solo with Tomatunga, and it was Jacob and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden Jacob and Solo had a little falling out and stuff. This is a little about a year ago. But anyway, I'm sure they're going to be clashing some point, and stuff. So it's going to be the bloodline fighting against the bloodline. They're all family. But we'll move on. Then we get the match with Ray Fenix and Axiom. The match was pretty good. It was pretty fast paced and everything. You got your European masked guy against your Mexican luchador and stuff like that. The match was pretty okay, and then you get a muscle buster, you know, um, wins it, and Ray Fenix retains as the AAA cruiserweight champion and stuff. Then you got Nick Aldis and Gunther talking, and Gunther says that he's ready to tell Nick Aldis who he wants as far as being the ref, and then he tells Nick Aldis it will be Sami Zayn. But I'm sure everybody kind of knew that that was going to happen and stuff like that. I mean, when he said that he wanted to pick a referee, when he wanted to pick his own ref and stuff, kind of figured that was going to be Sammy. So we'll see what happens and stuff out of that, and that's going to be next week on SmackDown that match. Then you got Trick Williams coming out with Little Yachty. Trick saying absolutely zero, nothing and stuff. He's talking about how he lost, King of the Ring tournament and that, he was feeling a certain type of way and everything. Then he started going on saying that, he's the new leader, of the new school and stuff like that, talking about his lemon pepper steppers and everything. And then he said his name is Trick Williams. He's still a U.S. champion and still Hollywood. And Trick Williams, like I said, with his lemon pepper steppers, and he said, his name is Trick James. Then he goes on and says that, hey, look, never mind, who thought, who he was and stuff like that. Then he says that his name is Trick James, and he says, my name is Trick James Beach and everything. So it's crazy. Absolutely a waste of time. Then we got Ricky Saints coming out, and then Carmelo Hayes comes out, pushes him out of the way, and they're talking about who beat who, the last match, and stuff like that, and everything. And then they end up, Trick Williams ended up telling him, hey, like, look, you guys fight again. Whoever the winner is, gets to fight him for the U.S. title. So that'll be a match for next week. Carmelo Hayes and Ricky Saints will be going at it for number one contender for the U.S. title. Then you got Solo Sikoa, Royce Keys, and Solo's telling Royce Keys that the bloodline is there, tonight and everything to help Jay, to win the King of the Ring tournament and stuff. And he tells Royce Keys that he doesn't want to see him, I guess, become a casualty, of the bloodline. So he kind of warns him and stuff like that. And then we get the match with Chelsea Green and Tiffany Stratton against Michin and B-Fab. This match too, a lot of missed spots. It was crazy. It was sloppy. I mean, man. But it ended up, man, it ended up Michin giving Chelsea Green, the Styles Clash and pinning Chelsea Green and stuff like that. And then there was a point in the match where I guess Chelsea Green was trying to tag in Tiffany Stratton, and Jay, she comes and she pulls Tiffany off the ring apron and stuff like that. And then, Meacham puts Chelsea into the Styles Clash and then wins the match and stuff like that. And then Tiffany tries to come back in to jump on Jade. Then she gets beat up and everything. Meacham, the numbers got on her and stuff like that and stuff. So she got beat up, but no Charlotte Flair to come out to help anyway. And then we got Kathy and Kiana James talking, and Kathy, was talking to her, and then about Julia and stuff like that. And then she's telling, Kathy that Julia, that she was out there trying to help Julia, to be a good fighter in the ring and stuff like that. That she had her back, and Julia was, doing some crazy stuff, and Julia comes out and says that, all she wanted was for Kiana James to help her with, her English so she can speak better and stuff like that, you know. And so they're, arguing a little bit back and forth. And then Julia says to Kiana James, that she speaks English, that she speaks English well. And, she says she can speak English better than she can really say to Kiana James. And then she slaps Kiana James. And then they walk off. So she slaps her and stuff. So you're gonna get to see Kiana James and Julia go at it somewhere down the line. I believe next week they might even have a match together and stuff like that. And then you got Cody and talking to Nick Aldis, and Cody, saying that, hey, is it cool, you know, that's what's going on, and Nick said that his hands are tied and everything, that it was Gunther's stipulation and stuff like that, so he can't do anything to change it. And then it says that Sammy is a loose cannon and stuff like that, and that um, Sammy's all over the place and stuff. And then Sammy comes out and he basically says the same thing, what Cody says, but in a smart way, telling Cody like, yeah, I'm all over the place, and and then he tells Cody, good luck next week, because he's gonna be the referee between Cody and Gunther. See how that goes. I still think that's gonna end up in a triple threat though. And then you got Kathy and LA Knight, and they're talking and everything. He's talking about the bloodline and stuff like that. Nothing really important and stuff like that going on, saying that winning King of the Ring, or that the fact that the bloodline's there to help Jay win and stuff like that. But anyway, that was over and stuff. And then we get the men's, first round in the King of the Ring. This match started off a little bit weak, dead a little bit and stuff. Then it kind of picked up and everything. And you get, Solo spiking LA Knight. And then Royce Keys, spines bust LA Knight, for the pin and everything. And then as he was trying to pin LA Knight, Jey Uso frog splashes, both of them, you know, um, and then he covers LA Knight for the win. So, and for your semifinals matches, as far as the men and the King of the Ring, you got Femi, going against Dom Mysterio. Good luck, Dom. Somehow I think Over's about to get screwed in that. And then you got Jey Uso going against Javon Evans. That should be a pretty good one. I don't know. Uh, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I believe Jay might win this and stuff. But anyway, then we got for the women, you got Liv Morgan going against Charlotte Flair, and then Io Sky um, going against Raquel Rodriguez. So it should be pretty interesting to see how all this stuff goes and everything. But anyway, if you agree with me, you don't agree with me, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, leave a comment. Let me know how you're feeling and everything. So, thank you for watching. God bless, deuces, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.